Welcome back to Silent Infinity. Like the first video, this is my second time recording this because rather than being technological issues, it was an NVIDIA thing which caused my recording software to go from multi-track save to single track save, which essentially meant that in single track it splurged both the mic audio and the game audio into one track. Wonderful when it comes to editing. So this is my second attempt recording this video for goodness sakes. And I kind of know what is going to happen, but we'll save that until the time comes. We have to go in this world, so let's find out what is through this door. We've neither entered nor exited from it. And it is a rainy scenario. And for those that live in the UK, we don't want any more rain, as it always rains every single goddamn day of the year. Hi there, hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day, dear person in the huge raincoat. You're ominous, aren't you? Right, it's time to get rid of you. Or not. Oh. It seems like... Well, isn't that just great? Eviscerated from this existence by trying to stab them. Yeah, here's a bit of advice. Don't stab them. But it does nice unlock a lovely CG, if I must say so myself. It is... is somewhere. Oh, here we go. Ron. You do not want to be doing that to him, otherwise that will happen. But it is for the thing's sake. Okay, more mail. I can't stop thinking about the things you said. It hurts me to hear that you feel like this. What exactly is she feeling then? And what exactly did she say to whoever it is that is them? Most likely one of this character's parents. How would you like this little harpoon? Oh, now you're facing me then, huh? And... oh, we don't get to stab you, but luckily you benefit us by teleporting us to another area within the game. And I think this goes to a pad, doesn't it? Yeah, sure does. And we have this scenario. It's going to be very noisy. There's only so much that editing can do to reduce the sound site before it becomes incredibly overwhelming. And, oh, that's a nice exit point there. So this is a labyrinth in itself. A wonderful labyrinth filled with infinite possibilities of where you could and may not even go. This is different. I think so, maybe not. It all looks the same. Everywhere here looks the same. We've been to these locations at least 10 times. Is there a way out of here? Is there a pad which I've not yet gone on? There we go, that looks promising. And found digital then, huh? Okay, so that is not the one to go across. Let me go back, please. I just want one more chance to get back there. Maybe it's a specific set of instructions that one needs to do. You know what? We know what this does, so we're just going to use it. It is a way to get back to the Nexus, which is absolutely fan-dabby-dozy. We have one more effect to acquire, then we'll be all good with that. We explored all the down area of these skylines, but we're yet to go up and see what is awaiting here. Oh, here's a man. And where this man is leads us to a warehouse scenario. Gosh, look at that figure in the background. That's not scary at all, isn't it? Oh dear. And oh, this broken bottle world is kind of symbolic by the fact that I think personally that this game has more to it than just an aquatic theme to it. And having that awakens you. Being threatened awakens you from whatever slumber you had. So it could be the protagonist's mother, considering the chest shape and all that jazz. Let's move on. Let's have a look around here to see if there's anything or anybody else that we can find aside those stairs. Yeah, what I'm thinking of is this kind of tale has a big symbolicness with alcohol, with the family, and quite possibly this character itself as well. Like, it's very possible that the entire family itself has been going through some ordeal starting with this character's parents, and then it slowly becomes a consumption that it's both her and her sister also follow along the same route from inspiration. Now, these costumes are not suggestive in any way, shape or form. And then we go to here, and we acquire the bunny effect. And what we can do with this is we can go into the bunny and then become smaller, which means we can go over here and start dancing, question mark? Well, you horrid monsters are absolutely horrible. I wish this was my first time going through this, for goodness sakes. I just wish technology wasn't in the way all the time. I suppose it means it's easier for me, but it doesn't make it as a surprise if I know what's going to happen. Anyways, what we have so far is absolutely fan-dabby-dozy. And earlier I said we only need one more thing. That's a bit of a lie. That's pretty cute in a way. A little bunny ears up there, and a big fluffy tail as well, which we don't see because it's only got the head portion of the image itself. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more, sorry, 6 more images left to find. And earlier I said we need one more ability. Well, that was technically wrong, but here it is right, I believe. Okay, we got more mail. Are you sure this kind of all or nothing attitude is good for you? So, it could be the fact that the protagonist went through the chance of moving out of her parents' house to then pursue a life of her own. But in doing so, she hasn't really escaped the grasp of her parents mentally, so that it always feels like whatever she's doing, she's always being monitored or under the influence by her parents. We have 11 abilities right now. We need one more. Manhole cover within here. Let's see where this leads to. This looks like a toxic version of the skyline. It's also quite neat as well because this also represents like depthness and everything. The toxicity of certain things that go about in a day-to-day life. And that looks like the wrapping that comes off a pack of 6 can of beer or something like that. That looks like an empty bag, pieces like bowels or stuff. Could also be a symbolic representation of alcohol in a way being a toxic substance to consume. Now this room is quite interesting, because if you put on a different item, then you can teleport to that area. So for the bottle, for example, you go back into the broken bottle world. I think that might be night vision, considering the fact that we go green and all that. Seashell over here. Fire could be beacon, but we don't know. And the top one looks like a flame of sorts, we don't know. Very interesting. Let's see now. It could be the long coat. Yeah, definitely long coat, which goes us back here. And also, going here is a one-way trek, which could also be a symbolicness towards if you unfortunately get yourself into the problem of being addicted to alcohol. It is like a one-way trek, which is an absolute no-go whatsoever. Like, you do not want that, but sometimes you don't have a choice in life because you succumb to your own weaknesses and stuff like that, which is very, very bad, but also very hard to break. Let's transform as a bunny and go in this little hole here, and oh, hello. We've got Umitsuki, the protagonist of Umitsuki, I'm not too sure. And then we have the metal pipe, which is Sepitsuki from .Flow. With .Flow being one of my personal favourite Yume Nikki Fangames of all time. And then we have Ebe, because we have that giant stingray fish, along with Gary's Rose, Ebe's Rose, and Mary's Rose. So the developer of this game is likely a fan of Ebe, considering all things. These sneakers make it so convenient to go from one place to another place if that is where you ideally want to go. Our next trek is to find a grey or blue obelisk in these blue raining docks. I think I gave it a different name last time, but we're looking for one of those because I believe that gets us to the last effect, which we have yet to uncover. Oh look, there's a bottle over there. Remember that white and black broken world? Yeah, that was just the first sign, this bottle, of being something along the lines of alcohol, and the fact that it could also be a drowning sort of thing. Drowning in both alcohol and also some kind of form of torture or depression. Let's see. Barren Cliffs. Okay, we was here last time when we got interacted by one of those monsters. Could also be a representation of a protagonist's father in a way, like attacking, but the streams themselves, like coming out of the belly, that is an ambiguous thing to try and fathom out what that could be. Like trying to string together all of the different bits of information that you're given throughout these kind of games. Actually looks like the opening to Eve when you're going down into the scenario. Kind of looks like that sort of thing. I know it's just going down into the water, but sometimes you get something on your screen and you can piece together a previous time which you've seen it. Not like you're copying it, it's just the fact that it kind of symbolizes that experience. So anyways, back to where I was going, and we're in the deep blue water now. There's some form of drowning possibly, and the fact that alcohol and water is a theme in this game can only depict some kind of suicide theme from the consumption of alcohol, but the consumption of alcohol itself is from the catalyst of becoming depressed. Of being depressed, I mean. And do you know what else is funny? When we came in here for the first time, in an isolated area, it was the shape of a bottle. Like, you interacted with one of those... Oh my gosh, you're hideous. What a hideous sea creature. You go into an isolated area which you can't escape from, but the area itself is shaped as a bottle. Sea creatures in here are wonderfully done, but they're absolutely hideous. Like, I love Yume Nikki Fangame games because you can put together your own conclusions from the different things that you've witnessed throughout these games. And everyone can come to their own conclusions, and each one can be equally as right as the next, and all that jazz, which is wonderful. Because in these games, nothing is ever really concrete aside from the events that you actually see within the game. The actual conclusions that you get, oh my god, that lobster is terrifying. The conclusions that you get are all different and stuff like that, which is really nice. That kind of looks like the huge marionette from one of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, if you remember that. Night Marionette, there we go. It was from the, gosh, the fourth game's Halloween DLC sort of thing. Anyways, back on Yume Nikki, and not another game. We're looking for a reddish monster to show itself so that then we can get to the final item which we're looking for. There we go. That thing looked terrifying. Like, going in here, you probably think this is the worst thing that could happen. And unfortunately, that man obviously suffered the consequence of staying in here for too long, possibly. So this is a diving suit, which would be more reasonable to have before going into the depths of the water. And obviously the effects of those bubbles probably would not apply if, let's per se, we exit the underwater by going here and then putting on the diving suit. Oh, it still works regardless. Yeah, because we're in an underwater dream, so it would be like that, wouldn't it? Like, at the very start of the game, when we go into here and then we spawn outside, look, it looks like as if we're underwater. Now, that is very good. Another neat feature is that we can't pinch our cheeks to wake up if we have a diving suit on, which makes sense. You know, if you have this huge helmet on you, you can't necessarily pinch your cheeks to wake up. That's really good thinking through that. Honestly is. Let's see. How many wallpapers are we missing? Got images. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 images missing. So we've got in total 26. So we're missing 4. Okay, that's cool. That's good. We'll look for the other wallpapers soon. Oh, hello. How are you doing? Please answer. We are worried about you. Okay, so the protagonist is not responding to either the mother or the father's email. So Or it could even be the sisters, actually, to be honest. Like, that could be a thing. What we're going to do now is go in here, deposit our effects, and then see what happens in an ending scenario. There are 2 endings, and I think the way that is depicted is based on the number of wallpapers that you have. You have to have either all of them or not all of them for an ending to acquire. So there are 2 endings throughout the game, and both of them have different outcomes. That's the diving suit, and here is the hair dye. You know, back in that place where we interacted with that bottle and we got teleported back into the broken bottle world. The thing that I said was fire was actually a hair dye can. So that was definitely a thing to look out for goodness sakes. Pinch our cheek again. Let's see, is there anything on our computer that's changed? Like another file because we oh, we do have a file. And if it's what you really want, then I can't stop you. So, the protagonist must have contacted the parents in some way. Not by mail, but in some other means. Unless, of course, we don't actually see what the protagonist has written to them. Yeah, this is quite alarming in a way. Like, really alarming. Because it's like saying that the parents have kind of accepted the fate that's going to happen. So, go to here. And as you can see on the kitchen side there's a knife. But let's just have a look around just before we go into our implied impending fate. So can't go there, can't go on the chairs. Right. Let's get this knife. Oh gosh, she has no eyes. You know what that means? In a deep state of sadness. Ouch. So she moved away, and the prospects of becoming an adult was too much of a burden upon her with the calamity of the different events that she witnessed when living with her parents. So therefore it probably all culminated into this one event of you've had enough and just wish yourself to be ridden from the world, which is a really sad thing, an incredibly sad thing. But that is one of the endings to Silent Affinity. There is a different outcome, however, and that requires all, if not most, of the wallpapers. Something I found out also when going through this game, and I saw this initially, but didn't really make a comment about it, is that if we wield a harpoon, a skull appears on the screen, or a red skull. But if we go to digital, it comes up with something else. And there could be a clue towards the room with the 5 different teleporter points, where if you have a specific item, then it loads up something else rather than the fuzzy TV. So if we go for headphones, nothing. Camouflage, nothing. Bunny has that on the screen, which is quite fascinating in a way. But also, night vision has a green eye. Could also be Illuminati-esque sort of thing. Beacon. Got the lighthouse there. Seashell. Comes up with a shell. That one was pretty obvious actually looking at it as to what that one would represent. Long coat. Alcohol. Diving suit. Oh my. That is really nice. Looking at that fish on the screen. And hair dye, nothing at all. So there could be clues, or it could just be a little Easter egg in itself. Either way, it is truly fascinating to see. We'll need it to be green. Here we are again. Answer for lighthouse. I didn't even do this in my initial time of coming here, and it was such an obvious thing to overlook, but when we initially came here, the CG that was, well not CG, but the image was unlocked, had the lighthouse, but it had it in a day and night form. But I never wondered why it didn't have a night, well we came here, the lighthouse itself didn't have a night form. Interact with a flame and holy Christ, the undead sea has come about. But we're also on the right side and exit on the left, rather than being on the left side perspective, but exiting on the right. So what have we got over here then that should be either inspiring or very, very dark. There's a cruise ship over there in the horizon. But then there's over here as well, which is like a diving board, and... oh no. Drowning. Going into... surrendering yourself to the deep blue sea. And there's loads of eyes under there, which could also be like the souls that have already drowned themselves down there. And their spirits are restless. Gosh. And that thing captured her body and did what it did with her to survive. Eating it, obviously. Oh no. There's a lot of symbolism about really negative stuff, but facing these things head on is more important than trying to bury your head under the sand and pretending that the world is wonderful digital dance. Lovely. We definitely did do that digital dance in front of those monsters. Wait, what was the one about the thing that we just did? Oh gosh. I don't like it when we cut. Oh, here we go. Sinking. That's a rather sinking feeling, isn't it now? I don't even know why I laugh. I like this background for some other reason. With a heart and in the sea. Quite peaceful. It's tranquil in a way. Now we're going to that world where we solved that little puzzle in order to get to the undead side of it. But now we can actually interact with it because we've now got the effect to be able to interact with the obelisk itself. The crystal thingy. Hello again, friend. You sure do look just as hideous as the first time around. Oh dear. And looking to look past the bodies and the grave sites and everything like that. Hopefully we'll be able to find this obelisk around here somewheres. The crystal thingy. Somewheres, I think. Here we go. This is it in question. Long coat and... oh. Oh, well, hi. And with vaporized. Don't stare into the obelisk while you're wearing a long coat. For some odd reason that gives way to your demise. So what would that unlock? Would that unlock a CG that's similar to that or an image? Let's see images. And there it is, really. Rest. Looks like we need a good rest after seeing that and all the blood is trickling down. This place is no good to roam around on your own at night time. You'd never know what pesky kids are around the corner. And speaking of pesky kids, alright, I would like 1 beer, 2 beers, 3 beers, 4 beers, and a 5th one, please. That's all our money. But also, oh gosh, when you have beer, you start to see different colours. Are you sure these beer isn't infested with mushrooms that you picked out in the wild and stuff like that? Beer with LSD makes you see things that you should not be seeing. Images, image 22, too much. Yeah, too much might be an understatement, for goodness sakes. And you got bags on your eyes as well, but also the expression that she's putting as well is one of utmost sadness. Like, she definitely has had too much, both alcohol and in real life experiences. Right, deep treasures for a final CG, or CG4, image 4. Now, there are 5 levels to this, and I find the second one to be the most irritating, because of the yellow blob where it spawns. Actually, you know what, this level can really suck at times as well. They all just surrounded me there with no ways of being able to get the key without being invaded by these creatures, like that pink jellyfish. If it didn't go... oh no... they all fathomed it out. It's really difficult to manipulate the enemies here because they don't necessarily follow you unless you're really close to them. Now, I'm going to show you why level 2 is so annoying. It's to do with where the yellow blob spawns. You can get the key, that's fine, but look at where the yellow blob is in comparison to everyone else. Like, it is covering the single point in which we can exit, which I think makes it abysmally difficult. Like, the red one predicted where I wanted to go and moved down rather than going to where I was. Now, that is quite smart for the AI, but also really annoying for the player. Level 3, and this one you just go down. Like, you travel along here. I think this is shaped to be something, like an underwater sea creature of sorts, or like a Pac-Man. Level 4 is slightly harder, but I'd say level 2 is the most complicated one. Out of all of them. Do not want any of yous. Get that one, and we've unlocked the final place. Level 5. And get the key before... luckily you don't have to respawn at the beginning at level 1, which would be very annoying if the game sent you to level 1. Right, there's one more key. Unlike the previous one where it was 2 locks, this one has 3. And since everyone is really roughly center right, we can manipulate their movements to stay right by us circling around to the left. Don't hit me, red octopus weenie. And we win. We win. We got the treasure and all that and stuff like that, I think. Let's see. Image 4. Deep Guardians. Deep Guardians because they're the guardians of the deep. So that is all 30 pieces of imagery. And this should be all of the music. And let's save and begin our final descent down. Yeah, we haven't got the last one because we've not yet put all of the items in place. So it's no different in this time around. We deposited our effects and we have all the images and all the music, etc. Save there. And now for the second ending. There are only 2 endings to the game. And rather than going to the knife, which you could probably still do actually. Like, you probably could still interact with the knife, but this time you can exit out of this door. Okay, so we're looking out into the city. Probably somewhere very high up, and we splash into the water. We're no longer there. Another form of suicide, just like the knife one. And it was an attempted suicide. So really no words from the protagonists. You can still have a very deep, impactful environment. And that's what Yume Nikki games are so good about, is that you don't need words to convey a situation in which you can piece together what could be happening. But there's those males as well, which did add some background story towards what could be happening, or what is happening actually. But forming the reasons why is also just down to the player to be able to depict and try and find, really. Because at the end of the day, we can all find our own conclusions from these experiences that I said earlier. Like, that's what's so special about these games, is that you can put together your own conclusions, and everybody's conclusions will be just as good as the next person's. But this has been a really symbolic experience about water, alcohol, and depression in a way, or a very deep form of negativity over a long period of time, which has resulted in the culmination of either ending 1 or ending 2. I believe ending 2 could possibly be the true ending, because of the fact that if it has an outcome in which a character survives by getting everything, then wouldn't those events be the ones that happens anyways? But that could all just be stuff in the open there. But this has been a wonderful game exploring around, but also something which is not too complex like, let's say, other Yume Nikki fan games, especially Umitsuki with its huge expansive size. Like, you could probably fit this entire game into one room of Umitsuki, because that's how big Umitsuki is. And it also has a lot more rooms as well. So complexity, in comparison to other Yume Nikki fan games, this one is actually one of the more easier ones to be able to get through and complete. But I thoroughly enjoyed this. But what about the word Silent Infinity? What could that also mean? Silent meaning not voicing out or anything like that, so you're always being succumbed to your own negativity in a way by not expressing them, so therefore you're not expressing how you're feeling towards other people, and infinity could be an endless cycle of repeating the same thought processes to the point where you are essentially overwhelmed by what you're thinking. But the game could also have a mean of submerging into your own thoughts and desires, submerging by emotions, submerging by the current scenarios in which you are witnessing, and it all cultivates into a powerful aquatic theme. Like, on the surface, the water seems very pleasant, very calm, and initially when we went into the worlds, the only thing that could have symbolized alcohol was the floating broken bottle that was within the docks. Like, that was the only thing I could think, okay, this could be a deeper understory, or there's an underlayer of a deeper story involved rather than just being water themed. But I like the fact that you enter into it and it is water themed, but when you exit out of the game, you get some kind of conclusion which is like, that is really dark. But I like dark stories because they're realistic, not like opposed to fiction and fantasy where things are interpreted very differently in their actions, but the psychological implications from those fantasy actions are pretty much exactly the same as if they were in real life scenario form. But in here, aside from the fact that we can explore underwater, this is definitely what you'd call a very real adventure. You can explore underwater just with clothing and all that allows you to travel easier underwater. But this definitely has been a very interesting and submersive experience in itself. Please play the game for yourself. There's a link down in the description below where you'll be able to find a link to download the game for yourselves and play it for yourself to see what kind of conclusions that you can form. Don't just watch me play these games. Download it, pay for it if it is purchasable. Well, other games, I mean, this one's for free, but I'm just talking about other games which I have played on which I've played on the channel which have had a price tag on them. This is completely for free. And if it's not, then do let the developers know. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Silent Infinity. Hope you enjoyed this video, folks. Hope it's been informative in some way. If you have had any troubles or struggling to get to a particular wallpaper itself, forming together a guide of sorts on all of the different CGs will probably be very hard to do, but it all goes about how many things you're interacting with within the game. Like, if you interact with basically everything, then you should be able to find everything. If you try and use all the effects on everything, then surely you will be able to interact with everything. But thank you so much for watching, guys. This has been Silent Infinity, and we shall see each other in the next video, wherever it may be. Thank you so much for watching, and take care of yourselves.